Marco Champion, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast.
Appreciate it, man.
No, appreciate you, man. We got connected through good old Dan Fulkerson.
He's a legend in San Diego.
Yeah,
I feel like he's got all the connections.
Dan, every time I meet somebody in San Diego and I add them on Instagram or Facebook, it's like Dan Fulkerson.
Yep. I hit him up this morning. I was like, hey, do you have someone for trademark?
Yeah.
Then like 30 seconds, boom.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, I can ask you anything. And he's like, yeah, here you go.
yeah, he's got everything. I've been connected. I mean, that's how we got connected, but I've made, a lot of connections through him. So, Dan, if you're watching this, we love you.
Love you, Dan.
So, Marco, tell the podcast a little bit about you, who you are, and what you do.
I'm an entrepreneur. To sum it up, I'm a skateboarder. Love skateboarding. Overall, I just, run businesses and just do what I love, have fun doing it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So we had kind of a similar, I feel like, chaotic upbringing. And especially like growing up, I think we were very misguided in terms of energy. So we went to coffee earlier today and just got to get to know each other a little more. And I really love the story about kind of just how similar our stories are in terms of getting in trouble and being very wild.
Aren't all entrepreneurs very similar in that way? Like, I just feel like every entrepreneur I meet, they're like, unless they're an operator. I feel like if you're an operator, a little different, but if you're an entrepreneur, like visionary, I feel like you're kind of rebellious. There's a lot of like kind of trouble that you got into when you were younger. Yeah. I see the pattern.
Yeah. Risk taking, right? Like,
that's what it is.
If you can take risks, but then bring that chaotic energy into, a passion, turns into money pretty quickly.
Oh,
it's really cool.
Channel it for sure.
Yeah. So tell everybody about your companies and kind of how you got started, where you came from, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, long stories. So I got a couple companies. First company that I started was Motive. It's a clothing brand. This one right here. This is actually, no one's seen this on video, so you guys got the sneak peek of the Kung Fu collection that's going to come out next year.
Nice.
This one's like my passion project. I love doing this. When I was younger, I wanted to be a pro skater, I was telling you earlier. And I was on that path, and I had sponsors, and I was writing Motive down on my journal in high school, and I was just always like thinking about, a brand would be cool to create. Didn't get a chance to become that pro skater. I got ran over by a car. So I was skateboarding down the street, hit a crack, flew into the street. I looked up, and if I didn't react, if I didn't have no reaction time, it would have went over my head, and I would have been dead. Like, it would have just been done. But I reacted, and I moved my head and went right over my shoulder, completely dragged me across the street. And then I shattered my pelvis, broke my spine, damaged nerves to my legs, punctured my bladder. I was like really close to dying. I had a pool of blood that I was sitting in. Fire department had to come lift the car up off of me. And doctor said I was lucky to be alive. They told my parents that I might not make it out the first surgery, but when I did, it was like, okay, he's alive. Like, and I was grateful. I'm like, okay, I'm alive. But then they're saying I'm gonna be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And that's when I was like, no, I cannot do that. There's no way. I love skateboarding so much for me never to step back on a board. And so that passion kind of just let me believe I would. I was like, there's no way I'm believing these doctors. I was just in like a delusional, optimistic mindset.
Yeah.
And eventually I started, being able to move my toes. And I went home in a wheelchair like a month later, and it took me about 3 to 6 months to really start moving my legs again. But after that, I'm leading to how I created Motive and built the businesses that I built now. After that, I got super depressed, right? I was telling you earlier, I got super depressed because I wasn't going to be a pro skater no more. I was in high school, so everyone was looking at me differently, right? I lost a bunch of weight, took a bunch of pain medicine, so I was breaking out. I just looked different, and so I just judged myself. And being in depression, I was still looking and searching how I was able to heal myself. I'm like, how did I believe I was going to do it if the doctors told me no? Like, what's going on here? What's the mindset? Is mindset strong? Like, what is this? I was just Googling everything, right? YouTube searching everything, and I found meditation. And meditation completely changed my life. I was like, whoa, this feels amazing just to do. Like, I wasn't doing it because I thought I was going to get some result at the end of the tunnel. I was doing it because I just felt better as I was doing it, listening to like guided meditations than I felt when I was depressed.
Yeah. So
I started meditating for like 6 hours a day, like straight for like 6-7 months. And then I got hit with, oh my God, that accident wasn't an accident. It happened on purpose, right? For me to get to where I'm at now so that I can inspire the world. And that's when I created Motive.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So Motive is all about, inspiring people to stay motivated and just, they can do anything they set their mind to. And that's the whole mission behind the brand, to share the message that we're putting out.
That's so cool, man. So your story reminds me a lot of Joe Dispenza's You Are the Placebo. And so there's a point in your life where you start to realize shit isn't what you thought it was. Right? The world doesn't really work like you were taught it was. And it's really exciting, but it's also really confusing. And I remember the first time that sort of clicked for me was when I read Joe Dispenza's You Are the Placebo. I had just moved back to Boston. It was around the time when Robin Williams died, because I remember I was reading that book in a Barnes & Noble when I found out that he died. And weird connection, but he got hit by a car. On a bike, he was in a full body cast, and the doctors told him, you'll never walk again. You're basically going to be this
vegetable.
A vegetable forever, right? And he started meditating, and he started basically manifesting himself being better, which I don't know how this stuff works, but I know that it works. And he went from them telling him he's never going to walk again to, well, you'll only limp. To okay, well, you'll walk, but you'll walk slow.
Same thing.
Now, I mean, it's just like the fact that you can do anything that you put your mind to, like really, like I don't think there's a limit to it. I think the limit is what you believe is possible.
The limit's your imagination.
Yeah,
like what you can believe. Yeah, what you can imagine.
Yeah. So David Meltzer, which we both know, talks a lot about manifesting and law of attraction, and I think there's a science behind it. What do you think of law of attraction and manifesting?
There's for sure a science behind it, right? Like everything's energy.
Yeah.
And I want to dive into that, but before I do, you were mentioning how like there's more to life than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I created this logo. It's 3 sevens. And 7 in numerology means there's more to life than meets the eye. So like it's the seeker of truth.
Okay.
And that's why like I created Motive, because I was like, I was trying to seek the truth, and I wanted to guide people in that direction, because I know that as I was going through it, I felt super aligned.
Yeah.
Right. And when you feel super aligned, it's like everything's clicking, right? There's the synchronicities are happening, right? You just feel like you're doing good and you're on the right trajectory, which I feel like everybody wants to be on the right trajectory. Nobody wants to feel lost.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just thought I wanted to
mention
mention
that's
that 'cause
really
I heard
good.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about so my birthday is November 11th, 11/11, born at 11 a.m. So whenever I see a lot of 11s, whether it's my brain tricking me or what, I always feel like I'm
Angel
on the right
numbers.
path.
Yeah.
But there's something to that. And, the building that we're in, the address is 1111. And
Dude, I loved it.
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Alignment.
Yeah. And it's so funny because anytime that I know that I'm on the right path, that stuff sorts to, it sort of comes up, and I see it everywhere. And it's just,
Our mindsets are attuned to that, right? And you were saying there's a science behind like the law of attraction. I love breaking things down into a science.
Yeah.
Like that's the way I'm able to believe things, right? I don't just believe anything I hear on the internet. I'm like, okay, but what's the science behind it? Like, why does that work, right? And so it starts off with energy. And I looked at like Einstein, E equals MC squared. What does that mean? Energy equals everything. Basically, the whole universe is vibrating. Yeah. And when Einstein said that, there was no way to prove it at that time. Now we have like microscopes, right? We can look down and see that everything, like this table is made up of a bunch of particles that are vibrating, but they're positioned in the way to make this table.
Yeah, it's not solid.
It's not solid.
Yeah.
No, but we are perceived to be solid. So how is it that I see solid, but it scientifically is not solid?
Right.
So vibration. Energy. That's how I started looking at it, and I was like, okay, if everything's energy, what is energy? Like, what's the difference between this table and me? What's the difference between the bottle and this phone?
Right.
It's the way that the energy is vibrating, the frequency.
Yes.
So then there's frequency differences, and I started realizing, oh shit, like successful. I can cuss, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Successful people vibrate at a different frequency. Unsuccessful people vibrate at a different frequency. Okay, so now what changes their frequency? And we started diving into it. It's like your thoughts and your emotions change your frequency, right? What you're thinking about. And, certain thoughts have a higher frequency and certain thoughts have a lower frequency. And if you're constantly bombarding your mind with these lower frequency thoughts, you're just going to be vibrating at a low frequency, which then attracts other energy and other vibration to that frequency. So you're matching it. And that's why it's like you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most with because of that, right? And it's so hard. I was just talking about this too. It's like you can be the best meditation practitioner and you're the shit, right? You're the best, but if you hang around people long enough, they're gonna rub off on you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter how powerful you think you are. They will rub off on you. That's just the science of it, right? You jump off a building, you're gonna fall. That's gravity.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, that's and when you talk about the high frequency and low frequency, it's totally true. Because when you look at when people listen to really negative music, and then you look at their life, and it's very similar to what the lyrics are.
Music is huge.
Yeah, and spoken word is huge too, right? So you got to be careful with what you say. They say you got to be careful with what you wish for too, but what you say, whether you're joking or not, like the universe and your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference.
Exactly.
So, do you have a vision board?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing changed.
I was watching that right now. I was like, ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I like the house too. Gotta invite me when you get the house.
Yeah, that's, and you see that watch on the bottom?
What is that, Rolex?
Yeah. Bam. Got it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I got to update it, but actually I got to update a couple things on there.
Have you been private?
Yep, I have.
Private's nice, huh?
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? Literally the picture
is exactly the same. Dude, isn't that crazy? I moved into the spot, and I swear to you, I didn't even go look at it.
Yeah.
I was in Arizona, and I had to get out. I went there for a year to open up offices for the business,
Yep.
the social media agency of the
Yep.
business. And then I go and I tell my friend, hey, I need to find a place in San Diego. I need it now. I'm leaving. And he goes and tours it with his video. And I'm like, okay, that looks cool. I'm going there. If I don't like it, I could just move later, right? I look at the dream board, and I look at the view. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I wanted a view of the ocean and
Yeah.
of downtown.
Yeah.
And that's what I had in the dream board.
That's so
exactly. I was like,
crazy.
wow, dream boards, they work.
Yeah. So Donald and I, his brother who worked for me, who now has his own business, if you see where it says 21.7,
Yeah.
we always talk about exiting my software and lead company at 21.7 million. And we've
Okay.
been saying that for a couple of years. Our growth was really, really stagnant until we decided to start thinking bigger and to start having bigger goals. Now we're well on our way. We're about halfway to that valuation, and we just need to double, and we'll be there.
There you go.
So I'm a firm believer that if that wasn't there, getting soaked into my subconscious mind
Yep.
constantly, we would not have the growth that we've had.
We have such alignment because I feel like the stuff you're talking about, I was just talking about too
That's so
recently.
crazy,
Like
yeah.
I was talking to Ernie back here. I was saying like if you set small goals, right, and you hit them, that's way worse than setting huge goals and missing.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can set huge goals. Now I'm in a component of like I'm never hitting my goals, but my goals are constantly leveling up.
Yep.
Right? Because it's better to like hit 70% of that 21 million than 100% of that 2 million.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so my business is at a point where we're not spending too much time growing it. We're more managing, and I mean we're still growing, but it's not the bootstrapping of the beginning of building a business, right? And that leaves you with a lot of time to kind of think and want to, bored and chaotic energy needs to go do something.
And I see that because you're like, oh, this is this business I have. This is this business I have.
Yeah,
Like, bro, you're just
yeah.
like me, bro. I'd be exactly the same.
yeah, and it's hard because you have to have focus because when you do too
Yeah.
many things at once, it
You
gets
spread your-
and you lose. And I've done that, right? This coffee company.
You have a
I'm
good
making
operator?
no, not yet. And
Okay.
and it's honestly probably a waste of my time, but I'm having fun with it, which is why I did it. But I started doing like investing and consulting with smaller businesses. So I'm doing consulting for equity, and I'm buying in and getting equity portions for businesses and then helping them grow.
Cool.
And when a lot of this subconscious beliefs from before, way before, probably from when I was a kid, sort of came back when I started looking into this, thinking all these reasons why I can't make this money. And then I'm like, you know what? There are people that are making billions of dollars doing this. They're not smarter than me, at least not exponentially smarter than me.
Right.
They're not more skilled, right? Like they just think different. So I need to tune into that frequency and figure out how to get there. And ever since I started doing that, that side of the business has been just taking off, and opportunity after opportunity after opportunity has opened up.
So what do you do to think differently?
Yeah. Well, I think visualizing yourself somewhere, right?
Right.
What you want, whether it's a house, whether it's a partner, whether it's whatever, right? If you visualize that and you feel it like it's already happening, your brain and your subconscious and the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, doesn't know the difference.
Right.
So if you can trick, and like you said, you were delusionally optimistic when you were hurt, right? If you can get to that point where
you trick the mind.
Yeah, where you trick the mind, but people around you are like, dude, that's crazy. And you're
Right.
like, I know, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that puts you on the right path. But the most important thing is being able to believe that it's already true in your head.
Yep.
I mean, this manifesting stuff is crazy because I used to play Grand Theft Auto 5 in Boston.
And then you started doing that, or what?
Well, no. So Grand Theft Auto 5 takes place in Southern California, in LA.
Right.
And, you can have your own apartment and office and cars and all that, whatever, right? You can have everything pretty much as in real life.
Gotcha.
Well, I had an office in downtown LA, which looks very similar to this in downtown San Diego. I had a black BMW, which is very similar to the one that I drive.
Right.
I used to drive to the airport and pretend in Grand Theft Auto that I was picking up my family and friends to go show them my place, and that shit
No
happens.
way.
All the
You
stuff.
did that in Grand Theft Auto?
But I was
that's
visualizing.
That's the better way to do it. I saw this, I predicted differently. I'm like, oh, Grand Theft Auto, you started stealing cars or what?
Oh yeah. No, I actually drive the speed limit in Grand Theft Auto.
Do you?
So, yeah, oh yeah. No, not all the time. I'm still killing hookers, but in all reality, I think that whatever you can use as a tool, like maybe it's watching a movie about a rich guy and visualizing that being you.
Totally.
Whatever works for you, and everybody's different. Everybody's brain works differently, but that really works for me.
Yeah, and there's a science behind that too.
Yeah,
right?
no, it is.
They did case studies where they had one subject group actually play the piano, like a physical piano, and they were playing it, but without an instructor, without actually learning. They're just hitting the keys. Then they had another group of doing the same thing without a piano, just in the mind, just hitting keys. And then they had a third group where it was, okay, they're playing the physical piano, but someone's teaching them, they're learning. And then the fourth group is they're playing in their head, but someone's also teaching them and learning.
Yep.
And the ones that they're playing in their head and playing in real life are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Even the ones that are they're hitting random keys.
Right.
Their brain map hit the same type of frequencies, the same type of energy that was being outputted than physically touching it, than thinking about it in the head.
Right.
So there's science behind that. It literally is the same. Your brain doesn't know the difference.
Right.
And if you continue thinking the same way, continue imagining the same thing, eventually you'll start to come into the physical manifestation of it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the first things to do is write it down, because you're physically putting it into the world that's in your head.
Yep.
So many people forget to write their goals down every day. It's like,
Yeah.
how are you going to get it if you're not going to write them down every day, right? And why just one? Write down everything. Like there's this one, and I love doing this. It's an exercise I created called Future Self Now.
Okay.
And so basically you create a story, and I do this part of my morning routine. You create a story of the future, but you act like it's now. So like, example, one story, and this was before I started flying private, but one story when I was writing it down, I was like, oh, I'm flying private jet with my friends. We're shooting YouTube videos, and we're going to work with it. Like, just like as it's happening right now, I'm doing this. And I create a story. The next day it's a story about motive. The next day it's a story about, traveling somewhere else. Like it just all these different stories, but as it's happening now, and I'm feeling as I'm going through the motion of writing it, like it's happening.
Right.
And that's helping manifest it.
Yeah.
There's already a lot of stories, if I scroll all the way to the beginning, that have already manifested, and now I'm like, my stories are crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting for those.
That's so cool. Have you heard of the movie Everything All at Once?
Yes, I saw it.
Dude. Okay, so
Yeah.
I watched that on an airplane.
It's a trip, huh?
It's a trip, but it as
I
much.
think it's true.
It's true.
I think there's all these different realities, and
Yeah.
you're like every choice that we make is shifting us into that reality.
Yeah. So let's give the viewers and listeners just like a quick kind of idea of what this is. So basically, in this movie, this girl is a woman who owns a laundromat, and she's having tax issues, and she's getting audited by the IRS. And as she goes into the office, she sees this note that basically says, do this random thing with your shoes, do this, go into the, the laundry closet, and
Random things like eat gum off the bottom of the desk. Like
Yeah.
stuff that you wouldn't do in this world, right? Like,
yeah, and then all of a sudden she ended up in this different universe where it was very similar, but if she had made a different choice. And the longer this movie goes on, the longer it shows how much your individual choices impact your whole life. And it gets really extreme and kind of weird and confusing towards the end, but the whole point is your thoughts create your reality, and your thoughts move you to the next step, the next thing that you're going to do, right? Like if I'm going to, like I could just get up and walk out of this podcast, and that would send this podcast in a completely different direction than if we just kept going, right? Like that'd be fucking weird if I got up and walked out. But that would
Like,
completely,
okay, this is my new spot, I guess.
yeah, I guess I live here. But that would completely change it. So what was your perspective on that movie?
Yeah, the first word that came to mind is Bandersnatch. Like that whole process that every choice we have leads us into another direction. So when I think about it, and when I think about like time being an illusion, and a lot of people talk about how time doesn't exist, but it exists in our kind of the way we perceive our reality.
Yeah.
It makes me think, do we have free choice? I mean, we have free choice to choose which path, but the path's already created depending on that choice.
Yeah.
So it's like, it gets me like kind of just thinking like, whoa, like,
Yep.
do I have, is it fate, or is it like it's already predetermined, God already created, like what is it, right?
Yeah, right.
Because it's all these different pathways that are already there.
Yeah.
Like there you go, I did something
Yep,
different,
right.
now I just moved me into a different pathway.
Yeah.
I mean, slightly, right? There's bigger the choice, the bigger the pathway moves you.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah. And they talk about, what is it, the butterfly effect, where,
Mhm.
you step on a butterfly in Kansas, and in Japan a nuclear weapon goes off.
Right.
It's the chain reaction of decisions is just crazy. I mean, you hear
Insane.
these stories of people missing a flight and then not dying in a plane crash.
Right.
You know, stuff like that.
And that's crazy that I like look at my life like that now. When something bad happens, something wrong happens, I'm like, oh, thanks God.
Yes.
Like that could have, something really bad could have happened, right? If
Yep.
I did go down that route, like I could have been in a car crash if I didn't make it on time, or
Yeah.
you know, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I just like to think of the positive and be like, oh, it's all good. Like it's redirection from a higher power.
Yeah. I'm just so interested in, because your intuition, I think, always knows, right?
Your gut.
It at least has the right direction in mind. And my intuition says that, of course, there's something else out there. I was raised atheist, right? And
Okay.
and I'm not religious. I just know that something is bigger than what we imagine. And so
Yeah, it's a trip. I was just watching Joe Rogan, and I was my family was Catholic. I'm not religious.
Yep.
Very spiritual. I definitely believe in a higher power.
Yep.
And energy and all that stuff. I just, when I meditate, I just feel like there's something bigger than myself that I
Yeah.
can connect to.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was watching Joe Rogan, and this thing started tripping me out with Neil deGrasse, I think it was. Yeah. He was saying like our globe, if we were to shrink our world down to the size of a cue ball, you saw that?
Yep.
It would be smooth. It would be
It
the
was
smoothest
like,
cue
it'd be
ball.
the smoothest thing in the world.
Yeah, and it just started getting me to think like, oh my God, like in perception, if there's bigger beings,
Yeah.
but this is like a little ball like that they can grab, and it's just round. Like there's no mountain peaks, there's no oceans. Like,
Yep.
so it makes me think like, oh shit, like what about like this? Is
Yeah.
there a world in this table that we
Yeah.
can't see?
Right.
Because it's so small.
And when you look
It's the
at
trip.
like when you look into an eye, and then you look in, you know, a picture of an eye up close or zoomed in, and then you look at like a nebula and a galaxy,
Oh,
and how
yeah.
similar they are, and
Right.
a brain and a tree and lungs, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
all these things that you look at, and it's like, maybe that's our brain looking for something like that. But I
mean, we're stardust, dude.
yeah.
Like that's literally what we are. Stars exploded and created us.
Yeah. And,
Like,
and if,
supposedly, I mean, that's what they say.
yeah, well, I don't know.
Right.
But if space is if what they say about space continuously growing in time, like
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't make sense. Like it's infinite and expanding at the same time. Like it just, I know there's stuff that our brain just can't comprehend.
Right.
You know, but I think about it. Right.
I mean, our civilization, like it might be advanced to like a lot of different things, but it's also like we're not even a type 1 civilization.
Yeah.
Like we still haven't harnessed like the powers of our planet, right?
Yeah.
Or solar. Like we
Yeah.
haven't even like harnessed the power of our sun.
Right.
Like there's I'm curious to see if there's type 4 civilizations who have already harnessed not only the power of their sun,
Yeah.
but the power of their galaxy.
Right.
And now they're playing in the universe like I don't know. For me, it's like I think that we're trying to become like God in a way. Like we're co-creators. Like we're manifesting like what we think God would do, right? Create and manifest everything.
Yep.
And we're constantly just taking that a step higher.
Yeah.
Right? Because right now we can only create and manifest what we have here. But
Yeah.
imagine we had access to the power of a star, or the power of a universe. Like we'd be able to create galaxies. We'd be able to create planets.
Right.
Right? We'd be able to create, you know, life. We could have been a creation of some other alien species that did, you know, some type of experiment. Like who knows?
Yeah. It's there's so much confusing. It's like you never know what to believe, because religion says one thing, and religion, especially if you grew up around religion, which, you know, my family in Boston is very Irish Catholic, and you know, when
But
you
you
have
grew up atheist.
no, I did, because my dad was an atheist, but
Oh,
my
okay.
family in Boston all very, very Catholic.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up atheist, but with religion kind of around.
Gotcha.
So, and then when you grow up and you sort of have these spiritual awakenings or whatever, it makes you start to think like, what is
Out there?
what's real, right? So it's just so confusing, like trying to.
When I looked at religion, I feel like every religion has some truth to it, but not all of one religion is true, because
Yeah.
people are fighting. Like,
Right.
Right? Like, isn't religion about being like one with God and like not doing bad things?
Yeah.
Yet people are fighting each other because of religion. So
Right.
that doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, the way I see it, I think there's a spiritual path for people that's not just religion. If you're like, if you don't believe in God, or you know, if religion's kind of done you dirty, because I
Yeah,
feel like it has
right.
for so many people.
Well, my business partner, so he's Christian, right? And he's very, very, very serious about his beliefs.
Okay.
And I've learned a lot about him, because a lot of what he says is very similar to how the universes seem to work. And him and I talked one time, and I remember saying, you know, something like, yeah, you're very religious. Or I mentioned something where I said, you're religious. He's like, I'm not religion. Like, I don't like religion. I'm like, but you're a Christian. He's like, yeah, but just because I follow the teachings doesn't mean, he's like, most of religion is, corrupt. He's
Right.
like, humans will be humans.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting perspective where you can learn from religions without, I don't know. I just thought that
Without
was
being religious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a cool perspective on it. Made me take a step back and go, oh, okay.
Totally. I mean, there's so many different Bibles. I mean, the book of Enoch was removed from the Bible.
Yeah.
Book of Lilith. Like, there's different books that are part of the Bible. I would love to read the original one.
Yeah.
Right? Not touched by man by so many centuries.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
What kind of information about unlocking? I'm pretty sure in the cathedral in Rome.
Yeah,
they,
locked away.
They probably have some stuff locked away down there, some
Yeah.
knowledge that I would love to get into.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems from a logical perspective, if you were somebody who is like a king or some, back in the day, you would want to maintain knowledge, right? I see employers do this, right?
Yeah.
They don't want their employees to know that they can go out and do this on their own. They don't, which most of them can't. But I've seen employers who have employees that want to start their own business shut them down because they don't want them to leave.
Yeah.
And because then that takes away from them, right?
Yep.
So I've always thought that makes sense if you're trying to control a
Society.
population
Yeah.
to keep certain knowledge from them and confuse them and put disinformation out there.
Right.
And yeah.
Which is the exact opposite of what I think, by the way, like with my agency.
Yes.
Everyone's a boss.
Yes.
Like it's I call it champion social because I legit won't have like if you're not a champion, you're not on my team. And
Yeah.
if you're not a champion, like you're probably not being a boss, right?
Right.
So every person on my team, like I coach them in a way where it's like, you're going to be a boss. You're going to have your own business. I'm going to pay your business to do the services.
Yep.
Right. And you can, if you wanted to bring on other clients, you can. I mean, it's your business, right? But
Yep.
I'm going to be bringing you most of the money, and I'm teaching you, I'm training you. And that's the way I take it now. There's been some times where people have left. And I'm like, all good. Like while you were here, you did what you had to do. You're gone. I taught you stuff. I feel like there's impact that I created in your life.
Yep.
I feel fulfilled. Go
Yep.
ahead. There's no like feeling of, oh, I lost this person. That a lot of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, I think, in that state where like
Yep.
don't want to share information.
Yeah.
Are like, dude, just share it, bro. They can find it on Google. They can find it on
Yeah.
YouTube. Like,
I know.
if they really wanted it, they could find it. So might as well you be the one that made that impact in their lives.
Yeah, and I think that the mentality of lack and coming from a place of lack and fear.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's abundance that you got to be in.
Yeah, and
Always.
one of my friends started a real estate marketing company around the time that we did, and he hit me up and was like, "Hey, I saw one of your ads. How'd you do this and this?" And I just got on. I'm like, "Hey, let's hop on a Zoom," and I showed him like literally everything that I was doing at the time. He was like kind of suspicious, like, "Why are you giving me all this information?" And I'm like, "Dude, it doesn't."
It's not gonna hurt me.
It's going to help me, right? Like if
Yeah.
I'm helping you, that will eventually come back to me. That's not why I'm doing it.
But that's the way the universe works.
Yeah, I know. And
Yeah.
and he, I don't know, it's kind of cool because he sort of started to do things like that, and it's cool watching that.
That's impact.
Yeah.
That's what I
yeah,
love.
Yeah. I love it, man. So let's talk about your social media and how you've had such awesome growth on Instagram, and talk about social media and networking, because I know
Yeah.
you're really good at both of those things.
So let's break down social media. I feel like a lot of people think of media when they're talking about growing their social media and forget about the social aspect, right? That's the networking aspect. And so when we grow accounts, it's like you can't just be off of your social media not being social.
Right.
You got to engage with people. You got to network. Now we have the blessings, I would say, to be able to network in our underwear in our bed.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you had to set up a meeting. You had to go out there, take hours of your time for travel, whatever it may be,
Yep.
for one connection.
Yep.
We can make one connection in 2 minutes
Yeah.
on the DMs on Instagram and just keep it going.
Yep.
Right? The $1.80 strategy from Gary Vee is what I used a lot in the beginning
Yep.
to grow my personal brand.
Yep.
And the two skills that when I was younger, I'm 26 now, when I was like around 18, 19, I was like, okay, if I poured all my attention into skills, which ones do I want to have? It was sales and social media.
Yes.
Those were the two, because I knew sales was going to help no matter what I do in life.
Yep.
Like everyone's selling. It's basically getting what you want. If you want to learn how to get what you want, learn sales.
Yep.
Like that's super simple. And then social media, it's about personal branding, for me at least. So, like there's so many people who want to grow their businesses on social media, and I always say, then focus on your personal brand.
Yes.
And people go, but I want to grow my business.
Yeah.
Let me grow my business account. It's like,
Yeah.
no, nobody engages with business accounts.
Yeah.
Like they engage with other people. And
Yep.
if your reputation is really, really high and people know you, like you, and trust you, they're going to do business with you.
Yep.
They're not going to ask another realtor if you're the one that they're seeing every day
Right.
on social media. They're just
Yeah.
going to call you.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, I think a lot about personal branding. And when you think about personal branding, it's not just the content you're putting out. It's like personal branding has a lot to do with the personal side of things, like your
Yeah.
growth as a person.
Right.
And that's why I love helping people through the agency, like grow, because I see the growth in them as they're shooting content, as they're, connecting with people. there's a huge growth that happens from within that then you see on the other side of the camera.
Right.
But I'm seeing it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
From the first day that we filmed to like the second one to the third one to the fourth one, we do like monthly content days, and within like a month, within like 1 4-hour session, we get about a month's worth of content.
Yeah.
And we just batch film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, I think that people think when they think of building their brand, they think of selling first. And with Gary Vee, he talks about, what is it? Jab,
Right hook.
Yeah. So
give value, then ask for business.
Yeah. And it's true, right? So in my consulting stuff, what I do is I reach out to certain businesses that I'm interested in investing in, and I talk with them, and I do like 1 or 2 free full sessions. And that takes a lot of time for me, so I got to be pretty specific on who I want to deal with. But if I provide a tremendous amount of value to them, like literally their jaws on the floor, I give everything that I can, whether I get something or not, at the end they're like, so how do I cut you a check? Like how do I get the ball rolling? And
Right.
it's a lot easier. And I think with social media, people think, oh, let me DM somebody and let me DM 1 million people, and I'll let them know that, you know, I'm offering listings at 1% instead of, 2 or 3,
You can't
whatever.
just DM people. So that's business, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going from a business account, you can go ahead and send business messages all day.
Yeah.
But your personal brand, like you said, jab, right hook.
Yeah.
Like just give value. Like the goal with a personal brand is to get your reputation to get up.
Yes.
Right? To get people to know you, to like you, and to trust you. Once you have that, then you can sell them.
Yeah.
Like then you can say, okay, this is what I have that can actually help you in your life with whatever product or service that is that you're offering.
Yeah, right. Like if you have a friend that sells insurance and you talk to some random insurance salesman, who are you going to go to?
Exactly.
You're probably going to go to the guy that you know, like, and trust, like you said. So I think that when it comes down to branding, and the reason why I've gone so hard on content creation and doing the podcasts and putting out clips is I want you to know me, and I want you to never stop seeing me. You know, when you get off your phone, when you go to sleep, you're thinking of me, right?
Yep.
Grant Cardone says, back in the day when he was selling and he'd go and try to convince people to come to these conventions and do all these things, that he was like, man, what am I missing? And then he realized, I got to get known, is what he said. I got to build that personal brand. So what do you think that people should do if they're trying to build their personal brand? Where do they start?
Where do they start? I mean, content is where you can't build a personal brand without content, right? And so many people are scared to get behind the camera or in front of the camera, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and it's okay if you don't put out the first 20.
Yep.
Just do it, right? Just shoot those pieces of content. And if you don't want to put it out, don't put it out. But it gets the ball rolling so that you start getting better and better. Like if you want to do a podcast, but you're like, I've never done a podcast before, shoot like 5-10 podcasts with your friends or people you know.
Yep.
And then you start building the muscle and you get a little bit more comfortable behind the camera. And then you're like, okay, let's just put it out there.
Yeah.
And then it's just about putting it out there. Like that's how you start. It's better than not doing anything.
The first podcast that we shot was me and Donald, and we just kind of tested it out, and we were standing here like this, like we were like stoned, And then the second.
Were you stoned?
Yeah, no, but we sure looked like we were brick,
I want to do a podcast called "When Champions Get High."
Oh my God,
and
that would be funny.
It's gonna be bringing on like celebrities and people that you don't normally see high. I mean, Wiz Khalifa, he gets high all the time.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
people that you don't normally see high, and then just get them high, and then have these like crazy conversations.
Oh my God, having Biden on would be so great. Here, Biden.
That'd be insane.
Edible.
I feel like he would probably fucking take it, not knowing, and some guy would be like, oh,
Yeah,
some guy would come in and cut the cameras, like they would all like, but he would be like, what's wrong, like.
That would be funny. Yeah, it reminds me of what is it? Is it Hot Ones?
Hot Ones, the Hot Wings.
Take the wings.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yep. I like that one. Yeah, Grant. You mentioned Grant Cardone. I have a pretty cool story about Grant Cardone. I lost a deal with him. We were gonna do a collaboration with Motive, and I sent him some gear. He promoted it. Like I have some pictures of him wearing the Motive stuff. Nice. Elena Cardone wearing the Motive stuff. Elena and I are pretty connected through like DMs. And so we started talking about like doing a collaboration, 10X and Motive collaboration.
Damn.
But this is like the beginning. I'm like 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
Don't know what I'm doing, but I set everything up to look really, really like big. Like the Instagram was consistent for like 2 years. It had a lot of followers. The branding was on point. The website was on point. So they thought it was a big business.
Yep.
And then when they came under they started looking at like the business, like this is not a big business.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, hit us up when you're like, bigger. I basically lost a deal though because of my email.
Oh.
I emailed. I don't want to put her name out, but one of the people out there that works on Grant Cardone's team, I emailed her with a presidentmotive.co@gmail.com. And they said, okay, we started looking, once we saw your email, we started looking into your business and realized you're not at the level that we are for a collaboration.
Right.
But in the future, reach back out.
Yeah.
And I was like, my email. And ever since then, at motivestore.com, at the business that I have, to make sure that they know it's legit. So
Yeah.
lost a deal with Grant Cardone on that. Could have had a collaboration, but
Yeah.
it's going to happen. I mean, our paths crossed so many times that one day.
Hey, and like you said about, when, your perspective on things like that, that maybe that deal would have ruined your company. You never know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It wasn't
Everything
my
happens.
time. Yeah. Cause it honestly wasn't ready for growth.
Yeah.
There's no way. Like now I just jumped back into motive because I put it on the shelf for a couple of years while I built the agency.
Yep.
Agency is now successful. Now have time, resources, money to go back into the brand.
Yep.
I have a whole like supply chain like in LA where they manufacture, get the fabrics, cut and sew, patterns. Like there's a whole process to really do this at scale that when I was younger, I was like, oh, it would have destroyed me if Grant Cardone actually accepted it and they said we have this many orders.
Yeah,
There's no way I
couldn't
wouldn't have
handle
been
the
able to handle
fulfillment.
that. No way.
Yeah.
I was taking the shirts myself to
Yeah.
get tags placed on at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it made sense that why it didn't happen.
That's so cool. So if somebody wants to start a clothing brand, like where do they start? How did you stumble upon that? I know that in high school you would draw it and things like that, but how did you actually go from it being in your mind to a physical thing?
Well, for me, it's not just about the clothing. It's about who wears the clothing, right? And it's the lifestyle for me, at least for my brand. I started thinking about like, who am I and like, what would I want to wear? Right. And why do I want to wear it? I'm an entrepreneur. I want something simple. So my stuff is really, really simple. And also I want something that's good for me. Anything I do, like food or whatever, I always look at what goes in my body, and clothing, like that goes on the body. What goes on the body goes in the body. A lot of people don't know that. Your skin is like the biggest organ of your body.
Yeah.
And I started doing my research. Most cotton t-shirts have over 8,000 chemicals in one
Yep.
t-shirt.
Yep.
And not only is it bad for you because there's chemicals going into your body, but the process on the back end is bad for the people like I don't want to put out these names, but H&M, Nike, all those companies, they have like, really cheap ways of making their clothing, but it harms the environment and it harms the people that are making the clothing and their area that they live in,
Yeah.
wherever it may be.
Right.
I started looking at that. I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to do that. Clothing is the second largest pollution industry in the world.
Right.
And so I started using sustainable and organic materials, bamboo being one of the biggest materials that we use.
Yep.
It's not only super, super comfy, but there's no chemicals and it's better for you, better for the planet. And I'm creating something that I feel like I would want to wear. And that's
Yeah.
where I started, to create something that you would want. And that's
Yeah.
what Elon Musk talks about. Like, I just created a car that I wanted to drive. I'm glad other people do. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's the best way of looking at it. Just create something that you love, that you like. You'll find other people that will like it the same.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that when it comes to thinking bigger, a lot of people want to start a clothing brand. They want to start a business, but they just don't. And I did this for a long time where I remember somebody said, yeah, one day you'll probably build and sell businesses. And my dad actually said that. And I was like, the fuck is this guy talking about? And I just didn't believe it. But eventually I started thinking bigger and started realizing there's more and more possibilities. Like, oh, maybe I can do this little business. Maybe I could do this and that. And I think that when people start to think bigger, like obviously you were thinking at a much higher level than most, younger people.
Meditation.
Yeah. Do you think that helped you?
Huge.
So you talk about meditation changing your life. Talk about that a little bit.
It changes your frequency. We were talking about energy earlier, right? Raising that vibration. That's what meditation does.
Yeah.
It helps you raise your vibration. And when you raise your vibration, you're pulling in a lot more success, a lot more abundance. Plus, it helps you deal with life better. Like, you don't react to life. Like, a lot of people react to life, to a lot of situations, right?
Yeah.
Something happens, a car crash, someone hit their car, they're reacting and getting mad. Something that seems like a bad situation, they're reactive. But when you meditate a lot, you start to respond instead of react. And you start looking at situations differently, which then alters your reality and changes your reality. And so, I mean, at a simple definition, it raises your frequency. That's why I love meditation, because I just feel like I'm getting higher off life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, when you say, when you're meditating, do you monitor your thoughts? Are you watching, like, what is meditation to you? Because I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people who maybe don't meditate or try to meditate, they can't quiet their mind. And I'm one of those people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to meditate. I don't know if somebody's like, hey, do you meditate? I'm like, yeah, of course. And then I realized, no, I
Not
really
as much.
don't
Yeah.
meditate that much.
Meditation is not just about quieting your mind.
Yeah.
It's like saying, like working out, it's about lifting the heaviest weights at the gym. It's like, no, it's not, right? It's about consistency. It's about building the muscle. And when you meditate, it's about focus, right? So you focus on your breath. And all these thoughts come in, and every time you're able to get into the gap, is what they like to call it. Joe Dispenza calls that gap. Every time you're able to, like, not hear thoughts and just focus on your breath, you're curling that bicep. It can last a second, right? And then all of a sudden you get thoughts again.
Right.
And like, so there's these seconds, and like the more you do it, the gap starts to expand. I can go. There's this one time. This is when I was meditating like 6 hours a day. where I closed my eyes and I shit you not, I blinked and it was 3 hours later. And I was like, what the fuck? I didn't go to sleep. I'm sitting up right now. Like, there's no way I fell asleep. I just blinked.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was the moment that I was like motive and everything came to me after that. But it's expanding that gap. So you're kind of just curling the bicep. And it's so much easier to listen to guided meditation. I still do. I still listen to guided meditations because like you're hearing their voice and now you're focusing on your breath, but also focusing on what they're saying. So it kind of minimizes like other distractions that come in.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're gonna make me start meditating again.
Dude, you gotta meditate.
Yeah.
Have to. It's so good.
Okay, I will. That's really good.
Yeah, and they say like a lot of people say 10 minutes. All you need is 10 minutes a day, right, to meditate, and that's better than no minutes a day.
Right.
However, there's science that says you don't get into the meditative state until after 25 minutes.
Wow.
It takes 25 minutes for you to like start clearing those thoughts. All the pollution. It's mental pollution.
Yeah.
Everyone has this mental pollution, especially like us as entrepreneurs. There's so many businesses, so many different things. We have all the stuff that we're thinking about. And when you have all that pollution in your head, it's hard to find like that source, right? That light. And when you're meditating, like you're able to remove the pollution and then tap into you. And it helps you become more aligned.
Dude, and nowadays, like if we look at everybody's screen time in here, look, Carlos is over there on his phone right now.
Oh, it's ridiculous. What's my screen time?
Yeah.
I only got 3 hours today. 3 hours and 16 minutes.
Yeah, that's, let's see. What do I...
My normal screen time is like 7 hours, 8 hours.
Let's see. But I mean, people are just on their phones, and it's addicting, right?
It is.
This is maybe not as harmful as drugs or alcohol, but it is more addicting because it's so accessible. And I think that's such a problem. Is, man, there's just. I remember being bored as a kid. You remember being bored?
You know what's a trip? This apple.
Yeah.
This is a forbidden apple of forbidden knowledge.
Ooh.
Now it's here in the finger and palm of our hands, right? We have all the knowledge of the world basically right there.
Yeah.
It's a trip. It's a trip.
Huh. Yeah, I think that with these dopamine hits accessible at any time, that's a problem.
I wanted to throw my phone out the window. When I read, the first book I read was that wasn't school books and stuff like that. Like book I actually picked out, went to the library and wanted to read was The Thinking Life. And this is about thinking about your thinking.
Okay.
Which is a trip. That's when I started realizing, oh, why am I thinking like this?
Almost from like a different
because now you're analyzing your thoughts.
Yeah.
And when you start analyzing your thoughts, you start to realize like, oh, this is what makes me.
Right.
I can change me.
Right.
I don't want to have these. And it's all about identifying with what thoughts you want to have because not all thoughts are your own. A lot of people think that all the thoughts in your head are just yours.
Right.
But they're not.
Yeah.
Depending on the environment that you're in will stimulate different types of thoughts.
Yeah.
That's why the sum of 5 people you hang around with ends up because their thoughts are polluting your mind and now become your thoughts. And then you identify with it. Boom. You're like them.
Right.
All right. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool. My mom talks about this story when she was like 5 or 6. And she was playing basketball. And she's sitting and she's getting ready to shoot. And she was thinking about, okay, I'm going to shoot. And then right when she thought that, she had this second where she goes, wait, who's saying that? Who is this thought inside of my, like, you can say, I saw, KRS-One, the rapper. He very, very famous old school hip hop guy. He's very spiritual and talks about that. And he talks about, there's this bit where he pulls up this rock star energy sticker and he says, everybody say, in your mind, rock star. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And then everybody says it, and he goes, who said that? You heard it, but you didn't say it, right? And I think that that's such a fascinating thing to look into. Like,
huge.
There's so much more going on than we understand. And, that trips me out. But
I like to use a metaphor about your mind being like a mind house. And thoughts are like the cars driving outside your house down the street. And you have all these thoughts driving down. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. Now the negative ones try to break into your house, and they stay there. They're negative, right? Like they thrash your house. They throw a party and like they just wreck it. Yeah. That's what negative thoughts do. Positive thoughts have to be welcomed in,
right?
Because they're positive. They're not going to just intrude on someone's house,
right?
That's like how the mind works, right? So the way I like to look at thoughts is when I see a negative thought, my doors are locked to my mind. I'm standing, the front door of my mind, making sure no negative thoughts can come in and identify with me. Right. They're there. I see them. I hear a negative thought go by, and I look through the window and go, where did that come from? Right? Well, that's weird. I'm not gonna get mad because if I get mad, I open the door for them, right? If I'm like, oh, it's not. All of a sudden, the door's open and they're coming in, and now I'm identifying with that negative thought. So I like to use that analogy because like a lot of people have all these thoughts, and people ask me like, oh, how do I get rid of these negative thoughts? You don't have to get rid of them. Just let them pass by.
Yeah.
Right. Observe them. It's not you.
Right.
They're not you unless you
Right.
make them you. And
Yeah.
that's the problem you're having. You're making them you.
Right. Damn. Well, dude, Marco, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Where can people follow you on social?
Marco the Champion on pretty much everything.
Sweet.
Yeah. No, honestly, last words, like, no matter what situation you guys are at right now, even if it's hard, I feel like right now we're having this transition period. I don't know when you're going to put this podcast out, but it seems like a lot of people are going through some struggles. A lot of people are going through some type of change. Just know it's happening for a reason. And, like, don't feel like it's just happening to you. It's happening to the whole world. And you can see, like, there's opportunities and failure. Just, you know, look for them when it happens. And just be kind of optimistic about your life because, you know, you're meant to do greatness. Like, you're meant to do a lot of good things. Just you might not be on the right path or the right environment. So shift those things, figure that out, but know, like, you have plenty of time. You can do this. Stay motivated, and reach out if you need any help.
Hell yeah. Think bigger.
That's right.
Thanks, man.